So we are in the last quarter of the year. Market's shifting again, and like we like to say ad nauseum, national headlines don't mean anything if you don't understand your local. And in New York City, hyperlocal is just about everything. So what I did today, and thank y'all for joining us. We have Evan St. Gerard, we have David Garcia, one of our top, some of our top agents. Of course, we have other big dogs as well, but you know what? I like these two cats. They're fun. So just as a little preface, we'll get into the markets that we've been looking at, seeing how the market is thus far, and things are going to dip now, right? Typically around the fall, winter is when real estate sales starts to trend downward, even more than a lot of these. The real estate market is crashing, people will say. But it's still important to make sure that you have good agents and a good team built around your whole portfolio, right? So with that said, we'll touch base into that.
Alex, thank you so much for the introduction. And let's not forget, you're an up and coming also, not just the content, but you got some business coming too. So give some props to yourself too.
Appreciate that. Thank you. So let's see. Let's start with David, right? And obviously agents have it a few different ways. Some will focus on just one specific area, whether it be a neighborhood, a couple blocks, a borough. Some agents will have a primary farm area and have everything else. And some people who are just megastars, like Evans, will just say, you know what, find me the business, I'll make it work. Where on that spectrum do you sit?
Where do I sit on that spectrum? In all honesty, I would say before COVID, it was more towards Western Queens. And I can't even say that. So I moved to Eastern Queens about 6 or 7 years ago. So ever since I moved over to this side, I guess networking and meeting more people, more business started coming from this area. Then stuff started coming from the city, Brooklyn. So once we had a more virtual presence, I think that the business changed for me personally. So pretty much, as long as I don't have to cross too many bridges, I'm selling it.
So you have the age-old New Yorkers dating guy approach where, well, I guess you're breaking that now. But growing up, it was always like if you live in another borough, you might as well be in another state or another country. And so there've been a lot of times where we're hanging out and they're like, "Oh, so where you from?" Like, "Oh, I'm from Staten Island." Like, next, like what? Like, I'm not crossing a bridge. I'm not leaving another borough just to see you. It's not happening, right? So,
You know what? Let's not single any specific boroughs out on this show here
I'm
today.
just I'm saying Brooklyn to Queens, Queens to Manhattan, like whichever borough. Like the point is, if it takes more than like 20, 30 minutes to get to you by public transport, oftentimes, well, maybe I'm dating myself.
Driving,
So
driving.
yeah, now it's driving, but it's like if it takes too long to get to someone, it's like, what's the point? Because by the time I come see you, it's gonna be no, right? Just logistically for the city dwellers.
But
But
that's one of the things that we have to change during the pandemic and now because of how tight the market is. You might not have that luxury, and you never know where that business is going to go with you. If you do decide to spend that extra 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour to get to that client, they're appreciative. You sell their home. They have other family members everywhere else. So you don't want to leave money on the table.
Mhm.
That's my take.
and no, and that makes absolute sense. And for me, I guess I have this mentality of I really want to know what makes things tick, right? And at first, my naivety when I first jumped in is like, oh, just national averages, and then just add like a percentage difference, and that should be roughly what the market here should be, and that was terribly, terribly wrong, right? And so I was like, oh, okay, so as opposed to New York State, New York City, right? And now that I'm doing the work, I'm like, no, it's sometimes it's from block to block. So from a realtor standpoint, you know, big hats off to you guys because when I try like when if I get a listing or whatever, my initial thing is okay, I need to understand the neighborhood, right? Obviously, if you want to do proper comps, you need to understand what's going on. Is this main road the divider between the 300 to $400,000 difference between list price, right? Or is there a reason why this side of the block is selling, a month faster than the other side of that, 2 block radius? And so the fact that you gentlemen are competing, not even competing, just working at that high level, and being able to accrue this information quickly is impressive, right? And so I know I was going to try to mitigate some of the ego tooting, but I mean, as I do the work, I get more impressed by y'all who are consistently hitting different neighborhoods, different blocks, different boroughs, and consistently doing excellent work, right? And I think it's going to be a point where I think I need to start making that distinction, because I think we quickly found that the past pandemic made all stars of people who honestly didn't need to put that much work in, right? And the difference, and I think this is critical, that the difference between those who will just sell properties or buy and sell properties on the agent side, and those who do it in a professional manner with excellence is night and day difference, right?
Yeah.
I think you hit it on the head, and one of the major things you said was consistency, which I know David does this. David's in the office like earlier than I am, so he's been doing that for quite a while, and he's very consistent with that. And that's the thing that separates the true professionals to everybody else is pretty much you have to be consistent with your clients, with your follow up, your lead generating, and your marketing time and all that stuff. You have to be consistent with everything, and it shows in your work and it shows with your clients. You're never leaving them guessing. They know that you're consistent, that you're going to follow up with them.
I think that's a good point. The consistency, I think, translates to the consumer or to the buyers and sellers in a way that they know that we're here for them no matter what, right? Like whether the pandemic or whatever else is going on or being said out there, um, we're local, like you said. We need to learn the local market, right? We learn to adapt quickly and understand what's going on in a hyper local area, what 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 tools, what technology, what information we need to be able to serve them at a high level, where we're not guessing, we're not just throwing numbers into the air that we don't know how they get, how you get them, right? There's a science, there's an art to it, which I didn't really think about when I first started. Um, but over time, you do understand that there are a lot of factors to real estate. It's not just dollars and cents. Like it's not just math. There's also the human component to it. So being consistent, even emotionally, you have to learn to keep your cool with your clients and with other agents and every other human being you interact with in a transaction, right? Um, I don't know who's going to be watching this, but let's say it's a buyer or a seller and they have an attorney or a lender that is not being consistent, that is not being responsive, that is not giving the information you need. As an agent, we have two choices. We can be consistent and professional across the board, or we can, choose somebody out and be unprofessional and sully our reputation, where we won't get that kind of, we won't build that relationship with those professionals where they'll answer your call versus somebody else. If you think about it, if you know somebody's going to call you and rip you a new one versus somebody that's going to be, you know, they might be angry. They might be completely in the right, but they're going to do it in a professional manner. You're going to get results there, right? Not to say there's no time where the Hulk comes out, but you do have to be consistently maintaining your mindset and your emotion throughout a transaction. You can't get caught up in and also in buyers and sellers, right? Part of our job is psychological. We can't, if a seller's blowing up on us, a buyer's blowing up on us, they hired us for a reason, not to yell at them, not to make things more problematic for them. It gets emotional. So whether you're taking the dollars and cents out of it, there's going to be times where you can tell a seller, based on the information from your local market, this is what your house is worth. They're going to still think that because their neighbor 2.5 years ago during the pandemic sold for $400,000 more, that they should be getting that. And I'd rather disappoint you now up front than down the road and lie to you, which a lot of people, agents, when an agent lists your home way higher than what it's actually worth, right? It's called buying the listing. The agent buys the listing, right? So an agent will go to you. They'll tell you, "Oh no, that other agent said it's $300,000." No, no, no. I can definitely get it for you for higher, and then they'll give less commission, right? So you'll get a discount, and you get what you get with a discount. You know, it's like going to Chanel or one of these top stores or going to the dollar store. I'm not sure which thing's gonna, last longer, but I'm gonna bet it's Chanel, right? So you have that same choice, right? And then as the agent who has to maintain their composure when somebody's using emotion instead of listening to your numbers and sense, it's critical, right? It's important to not come down and punish a buyer or a seller based on how emotionally they are tied to either the number or to the property. It's important to actually listen to them and delve into their what they're actually trying to get to when it comes to real estate, right? Some deals have no emotion. Investors, commercial deals, numbers and cents. When it comes to home ownership, that's some people have been struggling their whole life to get that house, right? Most people, this is going to be their biggest investment. So there's a lot of heart and soul that's poured into that. And we have to be human with those people. And it can't be just dollars and cents. It can't be matching our emotions to their emotions. We're the professionals. We get paid good for a reason, right? So that was a long-winded answer to what you said, but there's a lot of things in there that really, resonate with a lot of people, I think, and should resonate.
Yeah, I mean, this is where it's unfortunate in some regards because in some respects I can understand why people like to clown on realtors, right? The barrier of entry is really low, and there are a lot of bad actors, whether maliciously or just lack of education and good training. And because of that, I like to look at the differences between, like, for me, the easiest benchmark is someone who just got their license, right? Just started a license, just joined the brokerage, wide eyed, bushy tailed. And then for me, that first year is usually like you're really hopeful, get battered down, you get tempted most likely to do potentially maybe not so above board things, right? Most any agent worth their salt, any agent worth their salt will absolutely say not touching that, right? Some people just don't know any better. But then I compare that with the agents who've been in the industry for at least a decade, who has strong numbers consistently, and I'm like, what is the difference, right? And the difference is that there's a never-ending, consistent acquisition of information and knowledge, right? And that translates to wisdom. So when I talk to them, and I know a lot of people like to roll their eyes of like, just be consistent, be consistent, be consistent. This is your job. This isn't a hobby. This isn't your, I'm going to make $1 million next month. This is a consistent job. You clock in, clock out, do your work, right? And obviously a lot of people don't like
So let
hearing
me,
that,
I'm sorry to
but
cut you off.
it's
I'm
because
sorry
there's
to
so
cut you
much.
off, but there's a very dangerous thing with that word. You can be consistent, but you can be consistently terrible. Right? So it's not just about
Absolutely.
being consistent and doing, the things you're talking about. You're talking about lead generation. You're talking about building relationships every day. You're talking about being like Evans. Networking is meant, yes, you can have a great time. You can be partying, but you could also be building relationships at those parties, not just going to real estate functions to get drunk, get home, and not remember who you spoke to, right? That's at the beginning. When you're really getting into this, you can be consistently bad. You can be consistently bad at everything. That's why there's an 87 to 90% failure ratio in this and in business ownership. It's consistency of
Hmm.
doing the right things. And I'll toot KW's horn is that here in the office, there's training every single day. And what I see consistently is the ones that want to make it, they're here and they're learning and they are putting in the work, or even at home or whatever, they're putting in the work learning, right? The ones that are loud and the ones that are the squeaky wheels that are not really putting in that work, but the consistent right actions, those are the ones that will naturally weed themselves out of this business, right? Then there's been like, I don't know if you've
Hmm.
ever dealt with this, Evans, I'm sure you have. When as agents, one of the things that I hate hearing is actually how long you've been in the business, right? When somebody tells me I've been doing this for 30 years, my first thing is, have you been doing it wrong for 30 years? Right? Just because you're in it doesn't mean that you were killing it. It could be that somebody else was floating you all these years and you just happen to sell a couple of houses every couple of years because you get lucky, right? Or it could be somebody that's just doing the
Hmm.
wrong thing, like you said, and they've the karma hasn't hit them, right? Whatever the reasoning is, um, time does not equate to experience, right? Consistency doesn't
Mhm.
equate to greatness. It's the right actions for the right amount of time, right? Like our business, I don't know if you heard this because you came in after Ben Kinney, my guy, right? There's three things in the business. There's only three things. It's learn what to say it enough times, and say it to enough people. Our job has nothing else. Nothing else is important about our job. Those are the three things to succeed.
And you know
I,
what?
I,
I love
I,
that clarification.
I wanted to add one more thing to everything that David just said. We talked about consistency. I think the other thing people have to understand in this business, any business, you're doing a small business, whatever, you have to humble yourself sometimes, and you have to consistently, I'm going to keep throwing the word consistent, keep learning. You have to be learning based. You can't be, I've been in the business 30 years. I don't want to learn anything new. I'm not going to learn anything new. When you decide not to learn something new, guess who you're hurting? Yourself, your own business, and the people who count on you to be, you're pretty much the mayor of your neighborhood, possibly, and you don't want to learn anything, so they're going to you and you're giving them misinformation. That doesn't help them, that doesn't help you. So with our, I don't want to say clique, but our group here in the office, like David said, the ones who want to learn, they're going to learn. The ones who don't want to learn are going to just sit there, just standing, staring at everybody like, well, how are they getting successful? Because they took the time to be consistent, to learn, figure it out, and not just collect the book and the notes and never use it, but they're actually implementing it into their business. And this is a business. It's not a hobby. That's the thing. A lot of people get confused. Like, oh, I'll just do this on the weekend. Yeah, you can be successful doing this part time, but if you look at all the people, the mega agents out there that are in teams or solo agents, they're killing it because they're consistent, they're learning base, and they're talking to a lot of people. And that's the thing. You have to be afraid to. You can't be afraid of talking to people. If you're afraid of talking to people and working hard, then this is not the business for you. And like David said, you're gonna weed yourself out.
You know, this is why I love speaking to you, experienced folks.
And
Ooh, those morsels. I like it.
One more thing I want to add, because I have this on my screen. I went to a Tom Ferry event recently, and while you guys were talking, I was looking for this. Most agents know what's happening. Good agents understand what's happening. Great agents can explain what's happening, and I think that's the difference between the average and the professionals.
Well, that's a beautiful segue because I want you guys to explain to me what's happening in this crazy wackadoo market. You know, especially in our area.
Evans, you want to start?
Who wants to
Dave?
start?
All right, look, the sky is not falling. People want to sell, they're selling. People want to buy, they're buying. Yes, there's a lack of inventory, but if you're listening to your professional and you're coming in with great offers, not, hey, we're going to wait and see, it's still a seller's market, right? As of right now, it's still a seller's market at the time of this recording. So if you're selling, you need to sell. It's just not, hey, let's wait and see, put it in the market and see what happens. Then don't sell. If you need to sell for whatever reason, you're expecting a kid and you need a bigger place, you're downsizing, your job, transfer, whatever the case may be. If you need to sell, then sell. And you can find some. There's lots of options out there for people if they're selling and they're afraid to put their house on the market and buy something at the same time. There are a lot of different options that we can go over with the right professional that you're working with. You can either lease, you can buy back. There's all kinds of stuff you can do.
Absolutely. And Dave, what you got?
Very simple. Um, it's funny because I hear agents that keep on saying like the sky's not falling, right? And I don't know if it's me, but like and Evans, you just said that, right? There's a couple messages. There's the sky's falling. There's the sky not falling. There's interest rates are high. There's this. There's that. There's comparing interest rates now to 1982. There's all these things. Everybody's talking differently. The thing about being consistent that I learned is because I'm practicing like what Dean. I learned a lot from Dean and Evans as far as you get here early, you make the calls you need to do. The rest of your day is free to do whatever you want, or the appointments or whatever, marketing, all the other stuff, right? When you talk to people consistently, you kind of see, especially in specific areas, I don't hear people saying how bad is the market, right? Like that was a year ago when like interest rates went from 3 to 7 or 3 to 5 overnight, and everybody's like, oh no. So the messaging I think has been kind of like repetitive for so long now, where the people out now The people that are talking about selling or buying, they know interest rates are 7 or 8%. They know what's going on. They know that there's a limited amount of homes for sale. They know when you put a home on the market, there's going to be two things. You overprice it, and it's every market. You overprice something during the pandemic years when money was being given away for free. That's different, right? Those are called the unicorn years, is what they're using the term for that time, right?
Yes.
Because things didn't make sense, right? The world was blowing up, and here we are. Everyone's buying homes because money's being given out, you know, at really low interest rates. Now we're getting to regular numbers where we thought they were headed anyway. At some point, they were going to go higher than they were, right? You can't loan money at 0%. It's unsustainable. So now people that are chasing, like you said, if you're chasing a number, you're not getting it as far as a seller, right? If you're pricing it competitively, if you're pricing it according to the market conditions, and what are market conditions? Look at the last 6 months of sales right now, because we're back to the last 6 months have been consistent as far as inventory and interest rates. High interest rates, low inventory across the board. Now, do we go hyper local? Do we go even more granular? Yes. When you're talking about Bayside, you're talking about even less inventory, right? You're talking about Auburndale, it's longer days on market, right? Because they're higher price points. So at higher price points, now we're talking about, let's say on $1 million mortgage, let's say, I don't know, 700,000. Let's say they put $300,000 down on a $1 million purchase, which a lot of people are not, they can't do that, right? But let's say they do. That's $700,000 loan at 7%. That's what, $4,900 a month that they're paying at least in
About
mortgage. That's before anything, that's before electric, gas, internet,
Property
all
tax,
that stuff, right?
insurance, all that
eating.
jazz.
So
Yeah.
that limits the buyer pool, right? So it's not so much that the houses won't sell. It's if you price it right, it's going to take some time, but it's going to sell, right? The people that are saying, no, no, but my neighbor, blah, 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 got so much more 2 years ago, that you missed your boat on, right? Now, the tricky thing is, and my favorite part about this, because it reminds me of when I started, is there's people trying to time the market, which is the biggest mistake you can ever do. You never know when you're at the peak until it goes down. You never know you're at the bottom until it starts going up, right? So people are waiting for deals, which I love because they're going to continue waiting. They're the same ones that were waiting for a deal during the pandemonium, let's say, and they still didn't do anything, right? They're just waiting, and you can keep waiting. Nothing's going to happen. And I tell this story, and one of the agents tried to argue with me on this on numbers, and do your homework is all I can say. Is during the crash of '08, right? Because that one's important, right? During the crash of '08, because I've talked to some people that they're afraid of their when they buy a house of the value going down, right? You had Nevada, you had Texas, you had Florida, you had Phoenix, you had parts of Cali where prices fell 60%, right? That's rough. And you were on a balloon payment of a mortgage. So you went up from whatever it was, now you're double or triple the payment when you were thinking about refinancing, right? So it's an impossible situation for you. That was at the worst. It's not happening. It's not happening again because of the laws that have been put into effect, right? Now you fast forward all this time, 15 years, and when people are afraid of that happening again, at the worst time, New York lost an average of 20% value on homes across the board. Yes, some neighborhoods were hit harder, but overall 20% value, right? That's at the worst
That's an
ever.
adjustment.
That's not New York. New York is not going to be added onto. There's not going to be more of New York built, right? Like New York is what it is. We are a standalone market because we only build up. Around the country, they build new communities and they're building out. We're done, right? So the values here are protected by that. So I think it's an important message to get out to the public that things are more, they're normalizing. They're not, things are going to change. Like the people right now that are, the interest rates are too high. Some people can't afford it. I don't get angry at that. If you can't put food on the table and afford your home, don't buy a home. Don't buy it today. But if you can, and you can make payments let's go with the word comfortably or safely, and interest rates do go down, you can refinance if you qualify for it at that time and it makes sense, dollars and cents and all that. But if people are waiting just because they don't really want to pay 7 because they could have paid 3, and they're waiting for interest rates to go down, home values are not going to go down when that happens. That's more demand that pops back in to the market. So it's a time where you can't, the seller's market, buyer's market, all you have to look at that is how many months it takes for a home to sell, right? If it's over 6 months of inventory, I'm sorry, it's inventory, how long it takes to sell. If in a neighborhood it takes over 6 months to sell a house, if like today no more homes were listed and it would take 6 months worth to sell every house in that neighborhood, that means you're at a balanced market at 6. Anything over that is a buyer's market. Anything under that is a seller's market. So on every different neighborhood, it's different. But overall, in Queens and Long Island, it is still a seller's market if you price it competitively, right? And for anybody looking for those investment deals and all that stuff that I love hearing about every single day, I suggest that you start looking outside of New York because that's not where we are,
Yes.
right?
The other thing I wanted to add is pretty much it's up to the consumer to educate themselves. And in order to do that, there's seminars always. All three of us have done seminars. We've done them in live audiences. We've done them through Zoom. We've done them, virtual. If you want to learn what's happening, you can do something in a group, or basically you can do a consultation. Just finding a realtor who can explain all this stuff to you, what the market is. And the other thing I want to implore to the people who are buying, selling, whatever the case may be, figure out where you want to be. Are you moving? If so, where are you moving to? If you're buying, where are you buying to? You can't be all over the place. You have to narrow it down. Do I want to be in this area? Okay, great. What's important to you? The school district. Is the neighborhood more important to you than anything else? Or is basically just having a house that fits all your needs that's important to you? And you have to look at the options also. You might have just buy a house, or you can buy a condo, co-op. There's lots of options out there. So just have the conversation with your loan officer, with your realtor, and then listen to what they say. Heed their advice, because they've been doing this for a while. Obviously, if they're a seasoned vet and they've been doing this for a while, they're going to give you the right advice, and just listen to their advice and use that market knowledge that they're giving you, and arm yourself to make the right decision for you and your family.
Absolutely. And, a good realtor worth their salt will not, because they cannot speak on things that they are not experts in, right? So, for instance, I get a slight leg up because I have my CPA. So, can I talk about tax planning with you? Yes, I can, right? But unfortunately, if you have a realtor who's not qualified, talk about, oh, yeah, but you could have tax this, tax that. That's a red flag. But for me, it would behoove you to bring your tax advisor to the mix, your financial advisor to the mix, bring them all up to speed, put them on the same page with your attorney, with your lender, make sure that this all makes sense. Too often I see cases where they're like, oh, but such and such said, is this right? I'm like, well, wait, you have a realtor. Why are you talking to me? I can't even talk. I can't have this conversation with you, right? Because it's an ethics issue, right? I don't mean to be mean or cruel, but if it's a real estate question, you're working with a realtor, I can't have this talk, right? Taxes, fine, right? But for my clients, I could speak on the real estate and the tax. But this is where it gets interesting. If you can't trust your realtor, that's a problem, right? Evan's point makes absolute sense. If you're not sure, if it's just because you don't know, do some due diligence, fact check. We have Google, right? But if you can't trust the character of the person, that's a problem.
I wanted to say exactly that. You have to have a good feeling about the person that you're working with, and when you're working with that person, do they have your back? Are they looking? Look, this is a job. We're doing this, for money, obviously, but we want to make sure our clients are getting exactly what they want. And for me, I'm not going to speak. I'm going to speak for David also. And for Alex, it's pretty much we want to make sure that we're doing such a great job that you're going to refer us to your grandma, to your aunts, to your cousin Joe, who you don't like that much, but you want to see them move and do something. So whoever it is, basically, we want to make sure that basically we do such a great job that you're referring us, and When the client's happy, they're going to refer you. If the client's not
And
happy, you're not going to get a referral. We're
that's
in
the
this
gold
for a
standard.
long haul.
Yep, absolutely. And so, like for instance, I predominantly work in Brooklyn, right? Brooklyn. I do look in Bayside, Fresh Meadows, and parts of Staten Island, but Staten Island not so much. But Staten Island because I did grow up there in my early years, and it's proximity to where I live, right? So Brooklyn's my hood. And when I first looked at numbers from last month, I was like, oh my God, the sky, is my thesis wrong? It'd be whatever. And because I did see a decent dip, but then I look at, for instance, August numbers, and nope, right? And so here's the problem that I have with a lot of these conversations of, oh, the interest rate's too high. Everyone's telling me when the interest goes up, the price goes down. Usually, yeah, maybe, right? Keyword maybe. Usually, fine, right? But I'm looking at the sales data, and that is absolutely not true, right? The interest rate is much higher. People were gambling on the idea that the rates and the prices were going to crash, and unfortunately, right now I'm looking at numbers. Single and multifamily is almost 50% up from 2 years ago, right? It's in line with last year. The condos, unfortunately, by my particular area, is down a smidge, right? Co-ops are up, and in general, Brooklyn as a whole, everything's higher, everything's higher, right? So this is where it gets confusing. I know from a consumer standpoint because what do you have to rely on? You have Google flu, Google fluing headlines, right? Some of the savvier people might look into Redfin sold information for neighborhoods, right? But that still doesn't paint a whole picture, right? And so if I try to apply this logic to some of my listings in other places in Brooklyn, it might rhyme somewhat, but it's not going to be the same. So I can't give the same service and say this is the exact same way for every neighborhood, right? And you guys have done your homework, which is why if I have questions, I am more comfortable saying, "Hey, Evans, could you do me a favor, take a look at this," as opposed to, I might as well, go to my drinking buddies. Hey, you live in Bushwick, right? What do you think this house should be worth? I mean, unfortunately, this is what a lot of consumers do, though, right? They go and like, hey, look, oh yeah, my cousin John, he lives like 4 blocks from you. He sold for 1.6.
But it makes sense, right? Because again, we're talking about humans, right? Our job is dollars and cents. Their job is my cousin Vinny has been my friend. He's always taken care of me. He's always the one that's there when I need him, of course. And he's bought and sold 3 houses, himself, right? Everybody has that expert real estate agent who never was a real estate agent in their family, right? There's always mom and dad that come to the appraisal or that pop up into a miraculous second or third showing on a property because it can, it's like being back in the womb and everything, and it's all comforting. And it is frustrating as an agent, right, to deal with those things. But again, it comes back to the consistency and the dealing with these with the humanity of it all, right? Like you just said about how it makes sense to people, right? If you're looking at the news, it is very confusing. I see more and more people turning away from the news and just trying to devise their all, what is really going on when it comes to things, right? So when it comes to real estate, it's a very interesting thing in New York because you have places that are flooded with like co-ops, right? Forest Hills, Rego Park, flooded with apartments, right? Inventory goes up, demand's not matching it, days longer on market. You need to have your apartment showing better than your neighbors. Your neighbor that sold for X amount a few months ago. So sorry to say, you're probably not in that boat unless yours compares favorably to that, right? But then you have the crazy thing: who could afford a house in Forest Hills right now? Not too many people, right? It's a very, very expensive market. So where do they turn to if they have to buy something? Let's say human things that happen, the human condition, right? Your family's growing, your family's shrinking, your family, you have a job where you need more storage space at home. You may have gotten married. All these different things that happen, right? That impacts you, right? So you need to get a bigger space. You can't afford a home there, but you need to live in Forest Hills, let's say, closer to mom, closer to grandma, whatever the story is. Well, now you have to choose from a plethora of co-ops and a decent amount of condos, right? But the prices are not necessarily going to come tumbling down. There are significant price reductions. I've seen 10 to 15% reductions because they were 10 to 15% overpriced. Again, if you competitively price it, things move, right? It's no surprise that there are some co-ops that sell within 15 days and there's others that take a year to sell. It's numbers, right? Like Evans, I've only had a couple of really, how do I say this nicely? Houses in terrible shape. You guys deal with it on a
Yes.
consistent basis, right?
I'm not going to
Okay.
argue on that one, but yes,
And
yes.
price sells those. There are people that would be disgusted by some of the houses that I've seen sold, and yet somebody saw an opportunity there because that's really what it is. You have to look beyond, oh, this one doesn't have the kitchen I want. Well, can you make it the kitchen you want? Can you offer a little less and make it that kitchen? Can you be creative? So I've actually seen people looking into alternatives from going into the high end luxury to maybe I can make this my own. Maybe that co-op that has that $30,000 kitchen, I can do one for 15 that I would be happy with. Let me go into that one, right? So people are looking because the longer that this market goes of high interest rates, the more people are going to go, I didn't really need X, Y, and Z, right? What's important to them changes a little bit. So when it comes to real estate on a personal level, we have to look at every single client individually on what they want. Like Evans, I hear you all day talking to people and trying to judge what's best for them, not trying to sell them on anything. The house sells itself. We don't have to sell the house, right?
Yeah. At the end of the day, you as a professional, you're doing consultation. You have to ask questions to your clients, and you have to dig deep. Even though they're giving you a surface level answer, you have to dig deep to find out what the who, the why, and the what. And when you get all that information, and if they are stuck on something, you're like, hey, look, you said you want to do X, Y, and Z. This property offers X, Y, and Z. Or you said you're selling and you're moving to X, Y, and Z, and we have an offer basically that can help you do that. Is that still important to you? Yes. Now, why were you moving to the location X? Because we want to be closer to our grandkid who's just came out now. We want to be closer to our grandkid. So I'm like, all right, look, let's look at everything that you told me. This is what your motivation is. Is your motivation still the same? Yes. Then this is the decision that you have to make for yourself. I can't make the decision for you. You have to make this decision. If you want to do this, great. If you don't want to do this, then we don't have to do this. But I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't tell you what your options are. And I like to give my clients options, and they make an informed decision on what they're going to do, if they're going to move left or right. And that's what people really want. Is like they want you to guide them, and they ultimately are going to make their own decision what they want to do.
Absolutely. And for me, I mean, at first it was anecdotal, right? For me, it's asking, what is it that you look for in a house? And as you show a couple places, you're like, oh, this was this, but like, I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like, okay. But after enough iterations, I get the point of what is it that you want? And what is it that you need? What is it that you need? And be very particular here because um, over time I realized that, and I at first thought I was going crazy. It seems to, or maybe just the clients that I've been interacting with, they more wanted things that are more turnkey, but they don't want to pay turnkey
Yes,
prices, which is
yes.
to an
You're not going
extent
crazy. You're not going crazy.
right. But then I felt vindicated because that appears to be very common, right? And so it's either, I mean, unfortunately, there are those who want the turnkey, refuse to pay the turnkey price, and then they say, okay, then we'll wait till it crashes, which we know how that pans out. But the unfortunate side of it is, that from the seller side, they're like, well, a flipper will come. I'm like, I do calculations for investment properties. There's this doesn't pencil out. If you want a flipper to come here and they could deal with the sales or whatever and the rentals that you should probably do or don't do, right? Either don't do it, adjust the price, or do it and you get a higher, right? One or the other. You're kind of splitting the baby where no one wants this at all. So you're gonna be stuck in between. So for me, unfortunately, I get stuck in that. But the few that say, a good realtor told me this, and I don't know why it didn't dawn on me before. And he goes, "Did you link it with a contractor? Did you get him a quote? Did you at least like right? So if everything else is fine, and they're like, oh, now I see why this is like 200 on the market. Well, if I connected you with, again, you could get your own contractor, right? If you don't, right? But I could have some contractors come, walk the property. You could talk through what you want fixed and what you want, whatever, and we could discuss the cost of that reno and the price of the house. And if both those two things align, we're off to the races, right? And they're like, well, is it going to be a long process? Let's talk to the contractor, right? As they go through it, they're like, wait, so with the discount, the cost of the renovation is still cheaper. It's just time. Yes. Is it guaranteed? Right? That is a bit of a gamble, right? There's no perfect. It will be done 6 months on the dot. But
One of
is
the
this
things
now
that
okay for you?
One of the things I like to tell my clients is if they are going that route, you don't have to do all the work right then and there. It doesn't have to be one weekend. You're doing everything at the same time. Find out what's the most important thing in that house that needs renovating. If you do decide to move forward and buy that property, all right, you're doing the bathroom. We're going to do the bathroom first. Okay, great. Then the kitchen, or the kitchen first, then the bathroom, and whatever. Just do the more important things first, and then you have time. It really depends on what your lifestyle is. And if you're realistic, basically, with your lifestyle and your needs, your wants, you get everything done within the time that works for you. You don't have to do everything at the same time. Just be patient, but basically, you have to be little bit flexible when it comes to this stuff. And some buyers do not have the vision, and sometimes you as the agent professional have to show them, hey, you know what, this is a possibility. Here's some options you might want to consider, which you both have mentioned. And the seller's the same thing. It's like, look, we can sell the house, but in order to sell it, we need to make this look as appealing as possible. So we might want to take a few things out or put them somewhere else or just move furniture around. Maybe take the carpeting up. If it's a rug, area rug, take that out. Or maybe not have, I'm sorry for the pet owners out there. If you have animals, sometimes we need to put the animals in the corner. Let's make the house appealing as possible, and let's not leave things that's going to leave a negative scar on the house and people don't want to make offers.
David, you're biting your lip, man. What do you got?
Go
I'm
for
going to
it,
be the
Dave.
bad guy. Um, so you guys, what you said is really nice, and it's all sunshine and rainbows there. Awesome. That's good. The thing is, though, that there are clients that shouldn't be clients. It's the reality of the game, and that's, I think, for new agents and agents that have been around for a while, one of the tricky things is, okay, you want to educate your buyer. You want to take a contractor, right? Awesome. Let's say that buyer says, nah, I don't really want to. What do you do? What do you do, Alex? Yeah.
Oh, for me, I mean, I was in that situation, and I was look. For me, and well, the situation that I was in, it
No, but what do you
was.
do in this situation?
I mean, I
No contractor. Yeah,
and they say no,
yeah,
no contract. I'm done.
exactly. And that's what people are afraid to do as
I'm
an
done.
agent. They don't believe in that abundance mindset where next, the cure in this business to everything is next. You lost a deal, you need a bigger deal. Next. This and you got and I train my clients to be this way. You didn't get that house, you got beat, you got out, blah blah blah, you didn't move quick enough. That's really sad and everything. Next. We need to go to the next one. We need to get the next client. If a buyer or a seller is unrealistic and sticks that way, I'm okay with saying we're not the right fit. Somebody else will coddle you and tell you, yes, absolutely, yes, yes, yes. We'll find the house, we'll find the house. I'm not going to be on vacation with my family getting calls about a house that I know you're not going to be interested in. I'm not going to miss out on quality time with the people I love because of something that you're not being realistic on, right? I sacrifice a lot for my clients, and after a while, you just realize that some things are not worth that, right? I match my activities, my motivation to yours as a client. So if a seller is going to just let their house sell, stay on the market, I I've had clients where listed the property, they refuse from the beginning to list it at the correct price. And me just being a nice guy, I was like, all right, I'm telling you up front, this is not going to sell for this, but we'll try your price. As long as you agree to reduce your price within X amount of time. They agree. But then The human condition of lying comes into play, or just being afraid of, like, well, if I reduce it, I'm never going to get that number again. You were never going to get that number, right? So, um, when it comes to that, and after a while, you're just like, okay, time to reduce it. No. Okay. All right. Fast forward time. Yeah. So your neighbor's house sold. This one sold. That one sold. This one expired because it was exactly priced like yours. It was on the market for 2.5 years. What do you think that says about your house? Are you willing to stay here another 2.5 years? No, no, I want to move as soon as possible. All right. And then after a while, like you said, they either go left or right. If they're going left every time I tell them to go right, done. Now, do I refer them to someone else? Possibly. You also put in some work, so it'd be a smart thing to maybe get a reward for that. But many times I am fine with a clean cut. Just we're done here. No need to be negative about it. Just I can't put the time in. You're not going to be listening to me. It's okay to move on. We can leave as mutual acquaintances, right? Like, it's okay to walk away from things that aren't benefiting anybody at the end of the day. It's like being in a toxic relationship, honestly. So for people that are listening to this as consumers or agents, it's okay to walk away from those that aren't listening to you.
And
I'm
then as a side note, if any of you's got a message from any one of us saying, okay, we're done, most likely these will be one of the reasons why. Just
Yes.
FYI.
I just want to touch on what he said. It's pretty much the energy level has to match. You can't put a round peg in a square, or whatever the term is. It has to match. If you said you want XYZ and I'm doing everything to get you XYZ, but you won't listen, then we do have to cut ties. We're going to keep it cordial. You're free to go do what you need to do. I'm going to do what I need to do for the people that hired me and are listening to me, and they're getting the results. Because this has happened a few times, if after we've broken up, you try your way a few times, it's still not working, doors always open. As long as you're willing to listen and do what I suggest, we can work together again. But sometimes you have to have the door slammed in your face a few times before you realize, oh, wow, this guy was right. I'm going to do it his way. And guess what? Not only am I going to do it and get it done, but now I have to do extra work to catch up to the market now, because I've allowed so much time to go by. You really have to pay catch up.
Mm-hmm.
So
So
it's you're only as strong as your team. And please, if you're building a team, you have to listen to your team members.
absolutely. And now that we've gotten into uh, ways to get fired as a client, and we have brushed on it throughout this conversation, but
Well, not just
if
client. Also, there's other members of the team that might need to get fired also, and that's
oh, of course.
always the client's decision. If the attorney is not following to get them what they need in a timely fashion, it might be time for you to cut.
Mm-hmm.
If they're not the professional, they're not specialized in your particular real estate needs, they might need to go. If your loan
Mm-hmm.
officer is not following up with you and it's a crucial moment, they might
Mm.
need to go. If your realtor,
Yeah.
you fill in the blank.
Yep.
But
I mean,
one thing I do want to say before I'm sorry to cut you off.
mm-hmm.
If you are family, you're buying, you're selling, whatever, everybody has to be on the same page, because we're not mind readers. We can't think of, hey, the husband said this, the wife is thinking this. We can't tell. The family has to be on the same page. If you're on the same page and we're working together, it's going to work. But if you want to buy here, this one wants to buy here, unless you're buying two separate houses, you need to have communication with yourselves, and then have communication
Mm-hmm.
with us and the rest of the team. Sorry, Alex.
Yep. No, I mean that's an absolute good point. At this point, and I think we'll have to share for another conversation of times that the team was not teaming very well. What right? And whew, we're gonna have. I think that might be an episode. With
That's
more
another
returns.
video. No, yes, yes. Oh, if we're gonna have
But
alcohol, yes, let's definitely do that.
it's okay. We could edit everything out, so we'll be
Oh
Gucci.
no, no. Let's put the alcohol on the table and film.
Imagine that. But and so at this point, we are looking at collectively decades worth of experience. Obviously, my my contribution is like,
Would
but
you stop? Stop. You have a financial background.
I do.
A lot of
Right?
agents
And
can't say that. So you know when
that
the
is
math
true.
is not mathing. So
I love my math.
t- yes. Y- Continue.
So
Sorry.
if you were, let's say, in another world, or in another, let's say you decide I'm done realtoring, right? And so you put down your realtor hat, you off your tire, run off into the sunset, and a friend of yours says, "Hey, I'm looking for a realtor. Sorry, pal, I'm done." Damn. Okay, so what should I look for in a realtor? Because if you're not my pick, then I need someone, right? So how would you advise them in selecting a realtor?
You want to go first, Dave?
All right.
Age before beauty?
If you want me to go
I
first, I'll
got it.
go
I got
first.
it. Okay. So
All right.
one of the first things that can help you choose a realtor is how they work in communication, right? If you call them, they could be on an appointment. So let's be real here. All right. When my phone rings, for example, it's been ringing since I've been here, right? We've been on this. I haven't answered. My clients have an expectation that I've set where before end of day, they're getting a response. Like basically, as soon as we're done here, they're getting a response. Whether that's, hey, I'll get back to you, or whatever it is, that's important, right? If you don't get that from the beginning, you have an issue, right? And the same thing goes for all those other wonderful people that are involved in a transaction, right? Number two is the fire that they actually have, right? So you don't need somebody that's, oh my God, rah, 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 you got to buy this, you got to sell this. Rah, rah, rah. You don't need somebody, an auctioneer. You don't need somebody pushing. You need somebody that's on the ball, right? You talk to them about specific properties. They check. They give you the information you need. They give you recommendations, and then they let you choose yes or no. Because at the end of the day, you make the decision. They're just a source of information and guidance, right? So like we have, I can speak for Evans and I. We've had clients where we've given them the correct information and they choose to go the other way. That used to make me go crazy, right? Now I love it. Now I absolutely love it because when I tell you if you do this, it's good. If you do this, it's bad. And you do the bad thing and the bad thing happens, you come back and Dave looks great because Dave told you what would go right and what would go wrong, and what went wrong was exactly what he told you, right? So that guidance is important, right? Making that mistake, you want to make that mistake, sounds good. I'll give you an example with buyers. I told a buyer to make an offer immediately, right? Not tomorrow, not a couple hours from now. Make it now. Of course they think we're after our own pocket, right? Because we need money to survive and to feed our families, right? The thing is that I've lost out on a lot of money for doing the right thing for my client because that's what I signed up for. My fiduciary responsibility. Their best interest before my own. That's basically the main code, right? Which a lot of agents don't do. Yes, I get it. And a lot of agents don't believe me when I tell them. Like agents that try to or like a client that will try to go make an offer on my property straight through me instead of their agent because they think they're going to get a better deal. That's really cute. I love that. Thank you so much. You should really talk to your agent though and submit your offer the right way because I don't care what's going in my pocket. I care what's going in my client's pocket. I know that people say that and they don't mean it. I do, which is why I've built a good reputation when it comes to my listings and my business, right? So I don't mind that. So that having your best interest is super important to me. Because if that person has your back, even though it's killing them, you don't need anybody else involved. Like that's the person, that's my ride or die in basic English. Like that's what it comes down to.
I was gonna say the same thing that he said. Well, I'll add to that is pretty much the person not only has your back, but they're willing to educate you, and you feel you're not. When they educate you, they're not making you look or feel dumb. They're educating you so you can understand. So you have a better understanding, so you can make the best decisions for you and your family. And like David said, They want to make sure you get it. And even if they're not benefiting from it, if I part away with a client and I'm like, look, you need to buy this house and this person's not selling, if I'm involved, then go, I'll give you the advice that you need. And I've had clients, they bought the house, I was not involved. I had to step away from them to buy the house, and they bought the house, and they're living in there for how many years? That's okay with me, basically, as long as you get what you want. Obviously, I wouldn't get paid, but basically, if I need to step away for you to get what you need, then that's what we're gonna do. The other thing I would suggest is you're choosing an agent. You want to make sure that person's educated and they're constantly upgrading their education. They're up on technology. They're up on what's going on in the market in your specific area that you're focused on. If you need somebody who has connections also. A good agent, great agent, excuse me, has connections everywhere in different places. If you need to relocate to another state, they have access to somebody in that state you might be looking for. If you need a loan officer, you need an attorney, an eviction attorney, and they have access to all these people. A great agent should have access to all this stuff. So that's what I would say. And like David said earlier, communication is the key. If the agent can't communicate to you and explain something until you understand it, then maybe that's not the right agent for you. And just go with your gut. If you feel like, I don't know, as I'm talking to this person, I don't feel anything. Find the person that's going to listen to you and you feel the vibe, and it's kind of like you're dating. You know it within the instant if this is going to be the match for you or not.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, since y'all want to take all the words out of my mouth, damn. I guess I'm gonna play. I guess I'll pivot slightly and give, I guess, one little
Final
Alex,
thought?
let me give you something
No, I
maybe
mean,
you
for
could
me,
feed off of. How about that? Okay.
okay.
So we talked a lot about different things of trustworthiness, this, that, and the other. The one thing that maybe you haven't experienced yet, but maybe in other aspects of your life you have, when you do the right thing, not only can you sleep at night and not worry about things happening to you, but when you do the right thing, it comes back around. What Evans talked about stepping out of the way,
Karma.
yeah,
Karma.
I've seen some bad things happen to bad people in this industry, and I've seen really good things happen to people that, like, for example, when they first got their license, their best friend bought a house like a week after they were licensed, and they were all sad and crying, literally crying. And yet, what an agent doesn't realize is you just got your license a week ago. Why would your best friend who used to do keg stands with you trust you to buy or sell their most valuable product with you just getting into the game? I'm not talking about a year or two later. This thing is like dog years. The longer you're in this, it just multiplies the amount of stuff we go through, right?
Yeah.
So what you got to realize is you do the right thing, right? Let's say your best friend, you just got your license, they bought with somebody else, sold with somebody else, but you got them the attorney, you got them the contractor, you connected them to something. You, even if you said a kind word and then you stayed on top of them and gave them information over time, they can list with you. Like, I've had people in my database for a decade that they bought and sold with somebody else, and it hurt and it sucked. And guess who they're listing with and buying with now? Because 89% of agents don't stay in touch. Ta-da.
Yes.
At double the list price. Let's go,
Exactly.
baby.
Look,
Exactly.
I think it's all about communication, staying consistent with your clients. You have to stay consistent to stay consistent. Is the best
Yep.
way I can put it.
And for me, I guess it's, I'm gonna credit to my folks. Shout out to mom, and dad. But I have a low. The running joke is I would make a terrible criminal. I would make an absolute terrible. But as I got into the realtor space, the first listing that I locked down was already in excess of $1 million. It was almost 1.5, borderlining. I got to that point of like, damn, these people play. Some folks are not on the up and up, right? Or whether it be an agent or some buyers are just like, hey, look, why don't we just I'm like, and well, I was gonna do it just out of automated, just no, because I don't know, like I'm a terrible criminal from I don't know how to get away with it, but also like I don't like feeling icky, right? But around that time was also when I had my son, and I'm like, how would I feel coming home, kissing my son at night, and knowing that I'm not doing the right thing. How am I supposed to be a role model for my son and now my daughter? Like, how am I supposed to do that and look my kids in the face and say, "Dad did a good job"? I can't. I can't. It's not some like, and I know. Look, different strokes, different folks. Fine. I, it kind of torments me. I guess is the best word for it. I just can't do it. Right. So for me, if I got to walk away from it, and I have, it's just look. It's a lot of money. I appreciate you trusting me to do whatever it is that you were asking. I'm not doing it. Okay. So look,
At the end of
find
the
someone
day,
else.
you have to feel comfortable, you as the professional,
Mm-hmm.
and you have to be able to sleep at night. If you can sleep at night,
Mm-hmm.
basically by doing the wrong thing, more power to you. But
Mm-hmm.
like I think all three of us and everybody who's watching this, we believe in karma. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing something good or bad, basically karma is going to get you at some point, or
Oh yeah.
karma will reward you. You'll get what you
And
deserve.
like one
Yep.
thing for
And
you
so.
guys,
Mhm.
right? And I think this feeds off of that is not only karma, but like you said, I said at the beginning, our job is to do a good job by you, right? So good that you then tell everybody and your mama about how good we did the job, right? If we
Mhm.
if we stray from that, that's already an episode. That's already disaster waiting to happen, right? Like we want to do right by you. I don't care if somebody, yes, the people in this business, I know they try to bribe, they try to do really dirty things. Cool, do whatever you want. Just know when it comes to me, it stops here, right? And once it stops here, that I know that people respect that, right? Like when you say no to something like that where other people wouldn't, that's putting your foot down, drawing a line in the sand, and you can choose then what type of clients you're working with, which is my favorite part of this business. Is you can
Yes.
choose whether you're going to allow the slimy side of things to be your focal point, or you're going to help people make great investment choices, help people be a story, create memories in their home, um, create legacies, create their own empires, create wealth just through real estate and through the all the doors that it opens, or the other way,
Mhm.
right? And I choose to look at my job. The only way I can enjoy my job, and the reason that I got away from corporate and everything else, is I can do something meaningful in this job. I can help people and do things the
Mhm.
right way on my own terms and choose to work with who I want to work with. Meaning, if you're, I don't know if you're going to put this in or not, but if you're a douche, I don't got to work with you. It's just that simple. I can fire you so happily, no problem. Move on to the next. We don't get, if for some reason we don't click and you don't like me, which is rare, but it happens, oh well. Have a good day. Enjoy yourself.
Yep.
Please reach out to Evans. He can help you out. Like,
No, no. There has to be a vibe. If I'm not, I judge his. We think alike. So if he doesn't like someone, most likely I'm not gonna like them either. So
I
I
can
can.
only
I just.
imagine him like
I.
stopping over. He's like, they said that you sent them over to me,
I'm
bro.
like.
Why would you do that? Did I
I'm like,
upset
hey,
you? Like what?
Dave. I thought we were cool. Why would you do this to me? I just want to say one thing. My last parting thing is pretty much. I mentioned that there has to be a vibe. Um, the vibe has to match. The energy has to match. And thinking about the karma situation, for me, for Dave, for Alex, I think for a lot of people, the people who are doing the right thing, whether they're real estate, whether they're financing, or whatever industry you're in, whatever you're involved in, if you do the right thing, your business is going to go a long way. You're thinking long term. If you just
Mhm.
choose to do the wrong thing, you're only thinking short term. So basically, yeah, you're going to get a paycheck, but that's about it. Now you got to go
Mhm.
try and do that again and repeat that over and over again. How sustainable is your business going to be? It's not going to be that much. If you're doing the right thing and you're treating people right, you're looking out for their best interest, and you're not just collecting a check and you're done and that's it. You're staying in contact with them. Hey, buddy, it's been 2 years. You bought this house. By the way, this is what happened. The appreciation on your house. This is where we are right now. I just want to give you this information. You choose to do what you want with it afterwards. You're doing the right thing by people. Like, dude, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. I know I've been busy. I haven't got back to you, but I appreciate you constantly email me, text me, calling me, stopping by the house and leaving me information. I'm taking this information that you're giving to me, and I'm also giving to my family members. And that's one of the things that David's touched on this, Alex has touched on this. We want to make sure people are getting generational wealth. Also, it's not just you're buying one house and that's it. You have friends, you have family that you care about. You want to make sure that they're setting themselves up for the future. So when they're ready, they can hire Alex to do their financing. Had to throw that plug in.
Appreciate the love, brother. Um, and damn, this is the one thing that I have to get used to as we go through more of these conversations. The more things that pop up, and I think we'll have to save for next time. 'Cause
Yes.
we're over an hour already.
Look at
So
how much I've been drinking, by the way. I'm giving them a
dude,
plug. Hopefully, we'll get endorsements.
hashtags support us.
Yes.
um, I mean, real quick, I guess before we wrap up, we did get into what we look for in a good realtor. I guess I'll do a quick thing on, I guess, my take on how to find a good realtor, because I know Google Flu and apparently every agent is top agent of whatever and whatever, whatever, whatever. For me, baseline is going to be obviously, well, if you don't know, don't have anybody, reach out to any one of us. That's first and foremost. But generally, I would say go ask for referrals. Did someone buy something recently? Did someone sell something recently? Hey, how's your realtor? Did you like them? Did you not like them? Did you like the other person's realtor better? Right? And if you go into that spiel, it's like, what did you like about them? What didn't you like about them? Right? If you're on the listing side or buyer side, doesn't matter. What was the process like? Right? If they're on the listing side, how did they market your property? Did they have a photographer come in and do things? Did they help you stage the place? Like, what was their process? How did they market your property? Or did they just give you a call? Yep, everything's done. Clean off the house in 2 weeks, and Saturday 12 o'clock I'll be there. Bye. Right? Might work for you, probably doesn't. Ask these kinds of questions. Ask questions on how they operate, right? Do they link you with vendors? Like, hey, I don't know how to fix this. Well, I got a contractor, I got a plumber, I have an appraiser, do they have these people in their back pocket? Can they get them to you? Not that you have to use them, right? If you have your own guy, use them. But can that realtor provide you with resources? Hey, this attorney, we work with him all the time. He's great. Everything gets streamlined. We have five different lenders. Try any one of them. See which one gives you the best rates. Whatever works, right? But can they give you these resources, right? And if they do, they have knowledge of making the process smooth, right? So I'll leave you with that bit. And anything to add?
You said everything that needs to be said. Get references when you're interviewing with them. Ask them for references. Your vibe, basically, that you're having with them as they're explaining the process to you. Do you feel comfortable? Do you feel confident that they can do the job for you? And then get the references. And they have to have knowledge of the area that you're looking at also.
Any last bits, Mr.
I
Garcia?
think it's really easy now to find a good agent, right? Especially again, KW, plug in it. A lot of our agents here are top notch. I think that it's just like anything, right? You pick with who you want to work with. So one of the things that for me personally, and I'll say this straight out, is social media has been a tremendous blessing. Why? Because I can't meet everyone in the world as much as I would love to, right? But you can meet me at any time, right? Because what you see on there is who I am, right? As far as my personality. Will you get to know my entire life? No, sorry, not going to happen. But will you get tips and tricks? Will you get free information that you can, take a look at whenever you feel like it? Will I answer your DMs? Yes. Will you get a very big understanding on how I operate from what I post? Yes, right? Because everything I post is with a purpose, right? It's with getting you educated. So by the time we meet in person, you basically already know me, right? And that's what I use social media for the most part, is to educate and to be my tool as far as like my lead generation, right? So whenever I have a conversation with people that meet me on there, or even my own close sphere, they already know how I operate, right? And Evans is the same way. You're the same way. Like what you guys show here is who we are, right? It's not like we're all parked in our Bentleys and like lying and in front of a jet with piles of cash, showing things off, right? Like this is legit. Like we would have been going just
Not yet. Not
right?
yet. In a few more years.
Yeah, oh no, for sure. But I might be skydiving or something. It's got to be epic. But to really show our humanity, I think that it's a good tool. Yes, are there a lot of people that fake you out on here? Yeah, but it's going to be more towards the stuff that I'm talking about, right? All the fake nonsense that comes with real estate, right? Like,
Can I just say
yeah,
something, Dave? Real recognizes real. If somebody's phony and they've been phony on Instagram, Facebook, whatever, and you meet with them and you're not, this is not the professional that I thought I saw, you'll know that as New Yorkers, we know that within a couple of minutes. This is not who I want to be working with. This is not who I thought they would be. That's all I got to say.
Well, oh, looks like he froze. Well, while he catches up, Evans, why don't you let everyone know how to reach out to you, where to find you on social media, all that jazz.
All right, you can find me. My full name is Evantz St. Gerard. That's Evantz Saint Gerard. On Instagram, I am Evans Sells Homes. On YouTube, it's the same thing, and Instagram, Instagram as well. So just look at Evans St. Gerard. Spell out the whole thing.
And David, where can people get more of that lovely face of yours?
well, first of all, you could just Google me. You'll definitely find me on there. You could Google "Sell Your Queen's Home." That's been what I've been for years. And also, if you want to find me on Instagram at David Garcia KW, either one of those accounts, you'll I'm all over the place, so you'll see me on there.
All right. Well, gents, it's
Wait,
another hour in the books.
Alex, one last thing I want to say because all three of us are probably the
Yes, sir.
same. They want to catch us. They can get our cell phone numbers where you always have our cell phones. Obviously, if we're with our families, we're not going to answer the phone at that time because family time is important for each one of us. But we will get back to you at a professional time, at a time convenient for you to speak.
Absolutely. And I will leave all the contact information in the links down below. So, with that said, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I know you guys have a lot on your plate. I actually have to bolt out the door because my wife is about to murder me. Uh, but with that said, thank you for your time, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.
Peace.